Welcome back to Pixels and Politics, where we take a scenic route between worlds, real, virtual, and otherwise. I'm Blackheart, and as always, I'm joined by my co host, Dougie. Today, you're stuck with just the two of us, as we'll be dissecting critical global events from the tensions in Russia and Ukraine to the latest in the Middle East, and even touching on Haiti's situation in the Western Hemisphere. We're also exploring cutting edge AI developments like Sora and the video model Genie, Google's game making model. And plus, we'll be reflecting on our past episodes, sharing our favorite moments and key takeaways along the way. Dive in as we navigate the intricacies and tapestries of global politics and technological innovation.
That was well
Dougie,
said.
how are you doing today?
Today is good. I'm a little tired, but it's been a good day.
Yeah, good. Where do you want to start today? Huh?
Oh
Where?
God.
What part of the world do we start? Do we want to start in the Western Hemisphere right off the bat, or do you want to start in Europe or something?
Let's start Europe, and then we'll come around. We'll do the semicircle back to the Western Hemisphere.
Sure, sounds good. All
Yeah.
right, so tension with Russia and Ukraine. Where do you even want to start? Because there's been a lot of developments over the last week or two.
Yeah, and I think they've gone under the radar. I mean, people are becoming quite accustomed to like flat out a pretty large conflict that when a major village falls or even city falls, it's just you know, it's just nobody knows about it. The general population is not paying attention, and I mean, once they stop, then obviously Congress is going to care a little less. Um, I think it's important for people to keep paying attention. But the recent report was Adivka had fallen, which wasn't strategically important, but Russia is pushing. They're gaining a lot of ground consistently across Ukraine, and it's a little. I think it's a little worrisome. You know, it's worrisome because
So
yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say so. The loss of Avdiivka, that one, I don't think it's like a huge strategic defeat. I mean, it's been like on the front lines for since 2014, and it's been dug in, and the Russians paid a pretty high price from what I've seen. Um, and Ukraine once again defends a place like they did the same thing in Bakhmut, right? Where they
Yeah.
defend the place as much as they can. They attract as many Russian forces as they can, and then they pull out before they can get encircled, and they don't like lose like all their forces that were there.
Yeah.
So I think Ukraine, if you're Ukraine, you're pretty happy about how that turned out. I mean, yeah, it sucks that you lost it, but like you probably figured you were gonna like have to get pushed back anyway, right? Like I think I think they're okay with that. It's not a hugely strategically important city as far as I've seen. Like it's not really connected to any major roadways. It doesn't offer like some high ground advantage for artillery. Um, it's kind of just a place that was just heavily fortified, and Russia wanted it out of the way, and they got it, sure, but everywhere across it, they've made some pretty marginal gains over the last week or two as Ukraine's pulled back, but they haven't like been routed, right? Which that would be like the doomsday scenario for Ukraine, but they are still not. They still seem to have the will to fight, still keeping their army together. And I think the big question mark for them though is like, you know, is more aid coming? Like, is
Yeah.
our weapons going to be sent? Artillery shells, medical equipment, the things they need to keep pushing on, especially if they want to actually be able to, not just run and run and run and run. Um, and I don't know. Right now, it's still held up in Congress, right? Because I don't think the continuing resolution or whatever that they passed even addressed the Ukrainian. I think that's still being held up with the issues on the border, right?
I thought it had passed. I'd seen something at like midnight, or it was super. I don't know. It was a meeting that had taken place at night, and I thought it had passed. But I think you're right. That I saw later reports. It was like, nope. What's crazy is it's hard for we can only learn what the media puts out for us. So again, that's one of those situations where I don't know. I have no idea without having to go and immediately look it up. I have no idea. I thought it had passed, and then I learned it hadn't passed, and I don't know what the game plan is there. Like, do they even care? I know part of the push has been making sure that the aid is attached to the border stuff, um, kind of as like a compromise slash force the hand type thing where everyone kind of gets what they want. But yeah, I don't know. And the bigger question is, uh, what do those aid packages provide? But yeah,
Yeah, I'm also going to be kind of curious because I think they're getting the jets soon. I can't remember if they're the F-16. I think it's the F-16
F-16s.
is
Yep.
what they're. Yeah,
Mhm.
F-16s. Russia's lost quite a few aircraft in the last week. From what
Mhm.
I've seen, they've lost like 3 to 5 jets. Oh, and they just lost their ship today
Yeah.
to a drone. Like,
I
I mean,
saw
these are
a
pretty fucking substantial losses. Like, these are not inexpensive.
I saw a report that said that they had produced more aircraft than they had lost. Um, which, if that's true, that's a little worrisome too. That's just a little worrisome. You know, they're definitely. I guess like the point we can take from it, no matter what is being said, like the exact numbers, is that they are in full go mode. They are ready to go. They're pumping and they're in a war economy. You know, everything they're doing right now is meant to win that fight.
Yep.
Uh,
Which, I mean, they have to, right? Because they piddled around for the first bit and
mhm.
didn't have their supply chain in order, and it really bit them in the ass. The 3 day operation turned into what is it, 2 years and
We
like
are,
a week now.
yep, we are
Like,
just recently over 2 years. Yep, it's crazy.
yeah, and it's I'm at a pretty high cost, I would say, economically. Home politics. You've got international community backlash. It's not been without cost. But you're right. Like Russia has a industrial base that allows it to replenish what it loses. But the fact that they still lose them, like, I mean, what is it? Well, I think one of those jets is like $100 million.
For
Like
sure.
that's and you lose a trained pilot. Like pilots are not cheap to train, and just losing life in general is like, especially of skilled soldiers or operators, is pretty high cost. I mean, it's pretty crazy, man. But I'm actually kind of curious what you think. I also saw something where like it was like a week ago, France was trying to say that they should like send NATO troops, right? Or that NATO should put like boots on the ground in Ukraine. What do you think of that?
I hate Macron so much. I mean, I don't hate him. He's a pretty funny guy, but um, yeah, that was very bold, I guess. And it's not the first time he's said bold things. France, I guess, is kind of known for doing that, and Macron himself is known for, saying things like that. But the backlash that kind of spiraled from it, I thought was pretty terrifying, actually. So I mean, NATO pretty much up until that moment had already kind of been pushing the rhetoric of I don't want to say like flat out war, but basically getting their economies ready for war and producing what they need. I mean, we're talking about an actual war in Europe. That's insane, bro. That is so crazy. When you have 27 countries all talking about like it's not just talking, they're putting into action straight up war scenario things like they're making sure their economies are producing enough ammunition, they're getting their tank factories ready, like they're genuinely prepping for World War III. Like that's crazy. But yeah, up until that moment, yeah, there was obviously a lot of uh push for training and producing materials that they would need. And then France came out and said that, or Macron, and immediately the rest of the NATO members like, well, maybe not the U.S., but the others like, I don't know, that's not in the question. We're not doing that.
I
Um,
mean, Poland was ready to go, but obviously Poland's been ready to go since before day one.
I respect Poland so much. I respect that um they aren't afraid to say what's on their mind. You can tell some other countries, especially Germany. Germany, I think, has been um, really
I think
disappointing to a lot of people.
I think after like 2 world wars, I can understand why Germany is a little
Yeah,
gun shy about trying to take lead on some things.
yeah, it's rough. We're not. It's not a good time. It's not a good time. Germany, they're in a really tough spot. They were an economic powerhouse, and the rest of NATO and EU is kind of looking for them for leadership. They're kind of they're in the best spot to provide what is needed. They produce the most amount of those tanks. What is it? The I forget the name of the tanks that
The
the
leopard.
leopards. Yeah, the leopards. Um, they were the crown jewel there, and they were in the perfect spot to provide the most amount of assistance, and they just really hesitated. And again, I don't blame them either. That's so rough. It's so rough. Um, but because of their absence, it's left a void, and Poland has been very vocal about trying to fill it. Uh, which we'll see. Everyone is pretty much at this point. Everyone is pushing as much money as possible towards modernizing their militaries or expanding it. But okay, Macron came out. He said that. How do you feel? This is something that I've seen very diverse opinions across the board. But how do you're in the military? Like, would you be okay like with American boots supporting them like that, or like what is your red line? What do you think the red line should be?
I'm hesitant to suggest that we really go toe to toe with any adversary that has a nuclear arsenal, just because that can go really screwy really fast.
Hmm.
That being said, I don't know why Macron made that suggestion, because he had to know that was like dead on arrival, or that was only going to like irritate people or like get people riled up.
Yeah,
Like there's no way that was ever going to fly. NATO is a defensive alliance. They are not an offensive alliance. NATO or Ukraine is not a member.
yeah,
They were never going to get that. So I don't know why they would even suggest that. That was pretty weird. As for like, I don't know, like it's tough because you don't want to let these countries that have nuclear weapons just kind of bully people who don't,
yeah,
because that's not really a very it's rough, because then you can never stop them, right? You just have to like watch them bully whoever.
yeah,
I think NATO has done just about everything it can to help Ukraine without like crossing the line. I think the line being crossed is like Russia kills a NATO member or NATO kills a Russian member, and that's when it just goes real bad, because then you're just like, all right, we're like for sure fighting now, and we're
yeah,
just gonna throw it down. We've been waiting for this for like 50 years. Like let's just do it. And I think that would go pretty bad. Um, it would like cost of life would be very high, get very chaotic. The world would be very much disrupted. Um, so I don't think we should put boots on the ground in Ukraine. Much different answer though if it was like an actual NATO member. Like if it's one of the Baltic states that this was happening to, and like Russia decided to go in, or now Finland, if like Russia crossed the
sure,
border with Finland, then that's them picking the fight, and you have to kind of respond, because Putin, knowing that he has picked a fight with an alliance that has nuclear weapons, um, is willing to risk nuclear war for whatever. And if that's in his decision making calculus, and he isn't like scared of that, then you kind of just have to respond, and hope that you could either dissuade him from that course of action, or beat him so definitely that that's not even an option, or
yeah, yeah. Did you see? I think there's just you look at the path that we're on right now, uh, from a world view, and at the start, like 2 years ago, I mean, it feels like it was just yesterday. It really does. 2 years ago, it was everyone was kind of tiptoeing, and it was very soft rhetoric. It was like, okay, we have these red lines, but this is stuff that we aren't going to do. It's like when you're squaring up with an opponent, you're like, hey, man, I'm not going to kick you in the nuts or stab you in the eye. You know what I mean? Like, and
gentleman's agreement. I mean, that's, yeah, international norms, or yeah. Mhm.
sure, but I think we've devolved like from that period of, hey, like, we respect you, you respect us, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that. It's
We kind of got
quickly,
away from that after like the Revolutionary War, and that's
yeah.
kind of our fault. Like it used to be a thing forever, right? That you wouldn't like aim for officers, and that's why they would just all like line up on the battlefield and shoot till in the open. And we were like hiding behind shit, hiding in ditches, like covering ourselves with like hay and stuff, aiming for officers specifically because we knew the troops would, scatter afterwards. Like you know,
Oh yeah.
I mean, the American insurgency or the American rebellion, whatever you want to call it, was a bit of a wake up call for some Europeans, and it's had a pretty big impact on warfare. Um, but you got to do what you can to win. Like
Yeah. Well, that's kind of
it's
my point. Is that it's things started out very square, and there were some norms that it seemed like both understood for the most part, and it seems like we're quickly. I don't know about quickly, but we've come a long way from that, and now obviously we have Putin dropping the N word as Trump calls it all the time now. And now NATO itself, who kind of was taking even the NATO as in general, and then also each of the individual members were kind of soft, and they were very soft compared to what it was before or now. Before it was very soft. It was like, oh, um, Russia can't lose, and the aim is just to kind of work this out and to make a peace deal or whatever. And the rhetoric is changed to like straight up like we're going to war with them. The rhetoric is completely different now. And even I mean Macron, that's like same thing where at the start he was like, no, Putin and I, France and Russia, very special relationship. I'll go talk to him. That's very different from what he just said, last week of, yeah, we're going to put boots on the ground. Like, that's not on the option. That's completely different. Like, we've come such a long way from that, in that path, just that path of, whew, it just seems like a very slippery slope. I'll say this about the U.S. We've kind of had the same message the whole time. We've had that same message long before the war even started. So, thank, thankfully, we have some consistency. But
yeah, I think the next few months will be really telling on like how the conflict's going to go because like slowly ceding territory but like drawing high cost I think
yeah,
is a favorable position for Ukraine. If they're ever able to sustain an offensive, which I don't think they will be, would be huge. I mean, the failed offensive last year was, pretty tragic.
yeah,
I mean, they didn't like lose a lot, but like that definitely got hyped up a ton, and it just didn't amount to anything. As many historians will tell you, Russia on the offensive is a lot different than Russia on the defensive.
yeah. I wonder
Um,
how much, um, in terms of sensationalism, when it comes to the rhetoric and the image of like, oh yeah, Ukraine's gonna win, Ukraine's gonna push them back. I wonder how much of a toll, and then that failure, how much of a toll that failure kind of took on the support. If they hadn't, you know, if it wasn't seen as a complete failure, would our Congress pass an aid package a little sooner? Would they get a little more? Would EU be a little more supportive? Would Germany be more supportive? I genuinely wonder how much of these decisions are being made strategically versus kind of the portrayed image that they're gaining from, not to keep bringing up media, but from the word of mouth that goes around.
hmm. uh, eh,
I mean, it's tough. Like we can't know. We can only speculate, right? Like, there's
yeah,
no way you and me are gonna know. But yeah. Uh, hopefully it's not much. Hopefully everyone's thinking with clear minds, and hopefully America's just fucking being like, "Hey guys, help a brother out, please. Help him,
yeah.
help him." But
Yeah, well, we'll see how the Ukraine stuff goes, but
yeah,
maybe now we should move on to Middle East.
Middle
I think
East. Oh god.
the ceasefire is still holding in Gaza right now, right?
Yeah. So I think then, I mean, this is another very hotbed moment where everyone's kind of waiting to see if this deal is going to pass. I believe they said the ball is in Hamas's court right now, and I saw. I mean, again, I can only go by the media, the news that you see. There's some report that like maybe it wasn't going to work because Hamas was a little disappointed in some specific part. Um, but I think a lot kind of hinges on this one. Um, Iran gave Hezbollah the clear to, this is what I read anyway, the clear to straight up attack Israel if they invaded Rafah, which is the southern part of Gaza. Um, so I guess we just I mean, even just that. So at the start, I've kind of been very like not pro one or the other, but I've hated the misinformation and then people kind of getting baited by the misinformation. Um, but man, the
A lot of it.
humanitarian there is a lot of it for sure. The humanitarian crisis right now is so bad. It's got to be. I mean, it's got to be worse than what we know, but it is so bad. So the U.S. has started airdropping uh, food, which is good. Like
Saw that. Yep.
hopefully they keep it coming. And I've admired us for trying to keep things as stable as possible without going crazy. I know a lot of people are wanting the U.S. to do a lot more. I don't really know what more we could do. Israel's been really clear about doing what it is they want, what they want to do. But in general, minus the politics, man, that situation for the innocent Palestinians, whew, that's not good, man. That is not good. And hopefully a deal passes and things kind of settle down. But that has been a conflict that is just uh, becoming more and more explosive. Um, Something I think again that like kind of has gone under the radar was the Houthis' constant attacks. We saw the U.S. respond to um, the attacks and the Middle Eastern, Iraq, and Syria stuff, and then things got kind of quiet in the same area. I hate the quiet. The quiet drives me nuts because it just means that we've normalized it. But they actually sunk a British ship, and
Hmm.
this is it's gonna. These are important things that we should keep an eye on because inflation is gonna go up. It costs a lot more for these boats to go all the way around, and they're gonna have to go all the way around because it's clearly it's not working. Whatever the plan is, it's just not working, or it's not working well enough that it's giving these shipping companies confidence to keep going through the Red Sea. So they're gonna go around. It's gonna push prices up. It's gonna cause you know discourse in mostly Europe, but in Western countries, prices are going to go up globally just because of how the economies of the world are connected. And then people are going to get angry, and then the governments are going to feel like they need to do something. And like that's how these things, inflate. That's how these things snowball. This is how uh, the oil war started. It's the same thing. It is no different than this. It's nearly exactly the same thing. You know, and people just don't talk about it anymore. They don't know. The price is gonna go up, and you'll be like, please do something. Bring prices down. How's the president gonna react? They only have one option, right? Like, how do you bring prices down? Well, so it's another situation where it's like it's just normal. We're only 3 months in here, in 2024, and we have two really major conflicts that are both, on the verge of either calming down or getting really uncontrollably explosive in just a really short period of time. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, gotta love the sandbox, man.
Yeah,
Just can't leave it. Can never fucking leave it.
the simulation.
Oh God. Yeah.
So,
Unfortunately, the Saudis couldn't deal with the Houthis, like 10 years ago or whatever the fuck. Whenever they started fighting initially, just have been piddling around with each other ever since. Fucking Saudi Arabia, man.
yeah,
I don't even want to. I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole. I'm just gonna move off the Middle East now. I'm
sure,
moving off. We're
sure,
moving. We're moving
sure,
to Haiti. All right,
sure.
Haiti. All right,
Yes,
Haiti is
there's the
going bad. The fucking prime minister left to go visit the countries that are supporting the international coalition they asked for at the UN, and then fucking gangs decided to play while dad's away, and now we can't get back in the country because they're like taking over the airport and just causing a huge ruckus, killing a lot of police officers. Just it's a mess.
Haiti. Yeah, I mean Haiti's been a mess for quite a while. As much as I know, this is not technically the first time they've needed a UN coalition to go in. I know a lot of times it's actually made things I don't know about worse or better because you can't speculate like that, but it's and kind of a consistent problem and a thorn. Um, maybe hopefully it gets worked out this time, but yeah, that is becoming a really fast and big problem right next to a country that is known for being relatively successful too. Um, but yeah, I don't know. That's another situation where what are you gonna do? How does the U.S. handle that without pissing everybody off? I feel like the U.S. cannot do anything without pissing somebody off.
I mean, I don't think anyone, nobody, like literally nobody is interested in like intervening in Haiti.
Yeah.
Like nobody wants to go help because it's just been a really shitty situation. Their neighbors, Dominican Republic, which are on the
Yep.
other side of the island,
Yes.
have like been closing the border for forever, and they're just like, stay the fuck away from us. This sucks. You suck. Um, I think right now it's just a matter of like, I think the Department of State released like a hey American citizens, you may want to like seek shelter or like leave the country, but like obviously the fucking airport's closed, so like nobody can do that.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then like you don't want something like if the gangs are getting uppity, especially around the area where like the embassy is or where there's a lot of Americans. Um, you don't want like a Benghazi situation where like these gang members like besiege the embassy and then like start killing people. Um, so if it gets to that level, then I would expect that there would be at least a withdrawal of the embassy. Like it may not be like a non-combatant evacuation or a neo. It would be like a military assisted departure or something.
I gotcha. Yeah.
So, but I mean, there's like no fixing Haiti, right? Like it's not unless you want to go like full on imperialist, which nobody wants to do that anymore.
Well,
It's just like
want
nobody wants
to.
to fix Haiti. China doesn't want to fix Haiti. We don't want to fix Haiti. Russia doesn't want to fix Haiti, dude. Haiti is just they're on their own, man, and it sucks. But like,
Well, it sucks for the people. Again, it's another one of those situations where this week has been me just kind of reflecting on the poor innocent people across the board. And it happened because we were supposed to have another guest on, and you're both in the Navy, and I was thinking just before then I was hanging out with some other friends, and one of them was kind of like very hippie style hitting on the military, and I was just like, man, we're sitting here in our AC homes, and we've got all these monitors and computers, and we're having a good time, and it's like, dude, that is all because of the blood fucking spilt by our military. And then, of course, the blood spilt by other militaries across the world. And it's like, there are hundreds of thousands of people that have died in the Ukraine Russia thing. There are now tens of thousands of people that have died in the Israel Palestinian conflict. And, now you have all the innocent people in Haiti who are just getting rocked. And it's like, dude, fuck. That sucks, dude. That fucking sucks. And there's just like this nonchalantness of like, yeah, who needs a military? Fuck military. Who needs? It's just like, dude, oh, brother, I appreciate the people currently in our forces and the people from before, because a lot of the comfort we enjoy, man, it's because of them. It's because of you guys. Um,
yep.
but
Plus, there's not much more to say about Haiti, but hopefully, violence doesn't get too crazy and things die down and all that. That would be the best case scenario. But
it's what there is a situation where it works out, right? We have the Ecuadorian president, or I guess dictator, depending on what you call him, who went psycho mode on all their gangs, and um their crime
Spain
rates.
doesn't have the same structure. Like no, there's the power is not consolidated enough for that. So there isn't really fixing it like that. I wouldn't hope for that.
That's fair. Yeah. Um.
Anyway,
Yes.
I think we should move on from Haiti. There's
Sure.
just we can talk about it ad nauseum. There's no fucking solution there.
Yeah. Well, in some
uh,
lighter news, we had the Sora video model drop. I think it's been a little bit now. I think it was like halfway through last month. Um, that was OpenAI's video model, and I'm sure most of us have seen it or seen videos of it. But um, man, I again with the public reaction of this is terrible, this is horrible. I don't know who this is gonna benefit, and I'm just sitting here like, I feel like you guys are not, imagining what you can create with this technology. Uh,
Yeah, I can finally have some non-woke media.
yes, yeah,
Am I
that.
wrong? Like,
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. You are not wrong. I think this can help satisfy everybody. Let's just say that. I think it can help satisfy everyone, whatever flavor you want in your media. You want something very true to form. You want something more, woke. You want just something modern, whatever. You want something very old fashioned. This can help create those things, or at least help create. Well, I say that, but at the same time, Google's AI just got in a lot of trouble because of the uh, woke images it was posting, which were just ridiculous, by the way. Completely absurd. People were asking it about to make a video or a picture of past presidents of the U.S. and it would just randomly make them black or another minority. It did um, uh, minority or ethnic Nazis. Did you see that? That was pretty funny.
uh-huh.
Yeah. So I really was not worried about AI being biased either in any direction until I saw that because you expect more from Google. You know what I mean? Like, am I the only one? I feel like we all expect something a little more. Like, you kind of hope that this company, who is probably one of the most powerful in the world and is it's providing this technology, you just kind of hope that they wouldn't make a mistake like that. But they did. They did make a mistake like that. That
Oh,
sucks.
they sure did.
They did. And
I
here,
think.
go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead. No. I
No,
was
no.
gonna say just
Yeah.
no. I think so. These like video models or just any sort of entertainment models, whether it's like videos or games or images, I think they will help people who like have like a low bar of like something very specific they want, but like it would take way too much for like a whole team to do it.
Mhm.
So like for example, like what I use AI for is like when I do short story posts for that like role play community I play in, right? Neverwinter Nights. Dude, I just like use AI art images instead of like pouring through like an hour or two's worth of Google images to get like the very specific image I want. I can
Yeah.
just go to Bing and be like, I want a graphic novel style drawing of a silver haired elf who is crying as she looks out a window. And it'll just give me that. Whereas like I could search on Google Images for like 2 fucking hours and never find that.
Sure.
It's
Uh,
just like boom, okay, I got this done. All right, moving on. And like it saves me so much time and effort. And like, yeah, there's gonna be mistakes in it. And yeah, it's not gonna be as amazing if I had hired an artist for it, but like I still have the artist option, like for again, for that same sort of community, if I want to commemorate my character like a huge moment in her career, like I can still go and get an artist to do that that's like much higher quality.
well, I'll say this about you because I think your situation is a little more unique. I don't think people tend to do both. People tend to lean like, "Oh, AI is theft. I'll never use it." And then you have the people who are just like, "Hey, free shit is free shit." Like, so,
I mean, not everybody has the money to like get artists either, right? So there's going to
sure.
be people who like otherwise would not have access to art or be able to do these things and express their own creativity or like an image that they want made that they just can't hire someone to do, and now they can do it. So like I think it'll have a lot of pros. I mean, and then of course comes with the own hurdles, right? I think there's also a line between like using AI to like do something that's like free, right? Or like not meant to like create a profit versus like when you use AI art to like make a profit, right? Like if like Magic the Gathering, you're gonna make every single card with like AI art, unless they're using it from their own specific library of art, then that can get a little in the weeds, right?
Um, yes. Personally, I I I don't care. If I'm just being completely honest, I don't care that it uses previous artwork. I don't care if a company goes nuts and only uses it. I don't. I think if it's better, if it works, it works. And the thing about AI in particular that I was most worried about was more or less the public sector getting really regulated because if that happened, then it meant that we wouldn't also have access to the technology. And so my problem isn't so much that like, oh, I'm worried about a big company using it. I'm more worried about us not being able to use it because then we can't directly compete at all. like which it really wouldn't be possible, at least at that scale. So that was something that I kind of was a lot more worried about. And thankfully, we aren't seeing too many of these regulations pushed on us, on at least on the individuals. Actually, the regulations are more or less on the big companies, where they're kind of getting a lot of pushback. So I mean, I understand the argument of, a this big rich corporation shouldn't be stealing all these people's art. Um, I I can't remember if I said it last week or the week before, but I did. It kind of just spurred in my mind the whole, well, text models are technically based on, like Reddit posts and tweets and random messages that you put on Facebook and stuff like that. And it's like, if you're going to compensate the artist, obviously, if your art is behind a locked wall, or like password, username kind of setup, then for sure you should probably be compensated. Um, However, if it's just posted online and I can just get it from a Google search, I'm
Yeah,
a
there's
little
nothing
more.
wrong. Which is like where all of this is coming from, right? Like people were like, oh, like so for example, like the artist I work with for my D&D character, right?
Mhm.
He doesn't post that art publicly anywhere,
Good. He's a
right?
smart man.
And if he did, right, it would be super easy to find. Could potentially, or he post somewhere where it's not easy to find. And it's like
Sure.
these AI art developers or whatever. I feel like aren't gonna go scrounging around for like these onesie twosie images that like are a pain in the ass to like add to their like repository or whatever. You know, like they're gonna take like that whatever is like really fucking easily available and not just go, digging through the trash,
Yeah, this is
not the trash, but like digging through places that would be difficult to add, right? Like that
yeah,
defeats the purpose of having this model, which is to make it easy.
for sure. Quality matters, but for the most part, you want as much quantity as possible. And so there are some companies or websites that are suing OpenAI because they did, well, allegedly they did steal their art past not firewalls, but through, username and passwords. They like went in and then stole all the shit. I don't know. Those that makes sense, but um yeah, if you just posted it online, I'm sorry, like, it sucks. You didn't know AI was coming. You didn't know this was gonna be done. For sure, that's rough. But the idea that, like, what you post online is anonymous and no one can get access to it, and like, come on, like, what's going on here, guys? Like, it's the internet. What you say is gonna stay on there forever. What you post is gonna be on there forever. It sucks, but you gotta kind of, I thought it was explicit when I had first joined, but uh, some people seem to that was lost on them. But also comparing the text models to the image models, it's like, if we compensate all the open artwork that was used, do we also compensate all the random text that was used? Because that would mean some really interesting things. You know what I mean? Like some random conversations. Like, how does that work? How does that compensation really work? How do you sit there and like value uh someone's random shit post on Reddit? Like, is that worth the same amount as a knockoff, Picasso? Like, how does that work? I don't know. That stuff is a little beyond me for sure. But we did get the amazing video model, and um, I I don't like what OpenAI did, where they posted it and they were like, "Oh, we want to see what the community's reaction will be," mostly because I don't like the community's reaction so far at all when it comes to AI. I think it's been really terrible. I don't think people are on the page of, hey, this is coming. I think they still think if we ignore it, it doesn't exist. And that is not how this works at all. It is coming whether you like it or not. And I think the reaction needs to be a little more constructive. We need to be a little more directional when it comes to these companies and the video models and like what we want and what we don't want. For example, we don't want things to be inaccurate, right? We don't want I don't want to ask Google, "Hey, can you give me a president of Washington?" and for him to come up Asian or black, unless I ask for Asian at Washington. You know what I mean? like come on.
Yeah, that okay, that's its own fucking. I don't even want to get into that. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, man. That was. I'm saying. Oh God, man. But you're right. I think the discourse around it. I mean, media in general is kind of sensationalized nowadays, and to include social media.
Mhm.
So I'm not surprised that it gets like that. But I think you're right that like a more constructive dialogue would help tailor or help guide companies or just developers in general to make a product or make a creation that is either
For
more in line with
us.
societal
For
goals
us.
or for us or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so it's pretty rough, but I think it'll like smooth out eventually. I think there will be enough people that kind of can talk through things to make things better. But like it might just be like a minority of people at that point. Like it'll be like the 10 people who were able to get themselves in a room and get the ear of developers or whatever and be like, hey, this is what we want. But I mean, I'm not what society wants as a whole, but if society doesn't tell people what they want, then they can't complain about it. And the answer can't just be, I don't want AI, period, because like that's not a legitimate thing either.
Yeah. Which it's crazy to me. Like that's still what people are. It's still like an idea. It's like, oh, this will just go away if we just ignore it. We don't have to use it. And it's like, that's not how this works, man. Like, I don't think people genuinely realize how many jobs have already gone extinct, um, just from the AI usage. Like, obviously in art, we've already been talking about it. That one is a big one. A lot of artists they're gonna suffer here because no one's gonna be paying for their work anymore if they can just, you know, use a free model. But there's plenty of other jobs behind the scenes that I think they're already getting lost to AI, and there's gonna be plenty more. Again, we're only 3 months in, and there's gonna be plenty more jobs lost to the tech, and that can bring us into the next one. Google's game making model called Genie, and that one again kind of went under the radar, um, and it can do any 2D game from a prompt, and it is insane. It is insane how well it works. I think Google in general, their models will be, probably the best that the U.S. has to offer, just because of how much information they have to access and to use. Um, but yeah, they released a 2D game model called Genie, and it's not available to the public. And I think for the most part, it was pretty tight-lipped. There were some videos, most of it was images, but yeah, the model is nuts. Like you can genuinely make a full 2D game with just the model. There's just the AI model, and that is it. One person can sit there and make an entire 2D game. It's very consistent across the board. It's probably one of the most advanced, consistent models that we'll end up having access to.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
you're
I'm
right.
that one again. I go through these phases when it comes to these announcements where I sit there with my jaw like open and I'm like, oh my god, this is terrifying. And then it comes out and I'm like, this is pretty cool. It's pretty neat. I like this. This is pretty cool. But the advancements come so quick. I mean, both of these announcements for Sora, the video model from OpenAI, and the game making model, they came like within a week of each other. They were really close, and we're gonna see a lot more of these models come out like really quick. The advancements are gonna start rolling out super fast, so it's not gonna be a big deal anymore, basically.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see, I guess, what the next iterations are going to be and all that. But well, hopefully the discourse around it shapes up, and we get some good stuff that's usable, easily accessible, and also I would like the space, like the artistic space, to still have a human touch to it. I don't want to totally see human creators either discouraged or be totally done away with. I don't want to see them go extinct. It might make it harder for like lesser quality artists to make a living. Um, but I think there will still be a space for human creators. At least I hope so. As someone who wants to be a novelist, I would like to not just totally have what I want to do taken over by AI.
I mean, there are a lot of people who think that it will, that it'll make it'll make a lot of people obsolete in human creativity in general. But I'm on the more hopeful side of, I've worked with it a lot. It can't create. It can access a wide variety of creations and therefore kind of surprise you consistently. But as far as really coming up with something new, especially the way humans have, if you look at the evolution of art throughout history, AI is not going to be able to. The only way it would be able to evolve like that is if we told it to, and that's just not the same thing. I don't really see us encouraging that behavior. So artists, like yourself or any of the other artists out there who create stuff, assuming you aren't just copying someone else's stuff and you're being original in some way, shape, or form, I think that'll still have huge payouts. If not, it'll have even more than before, because we're about to hit an era of kind of a flooding of copycats and variations that you know are tailored to us. And so when something new comes along, it'll be very valuable.
Yep. That's what my hope is. I also hope that like I kind of said before, I hope that the whole like AI creating stuff thing will also encourage people to just be better. Because
Yeah.
if it's not, and they do like I don't know Star Wars with like fucking Rey as the protagonist, I'm gonna just be like, I want Star Wars, but like I want a good protagonist, and then just fucking throws in a good protagonist.
Yeah. That's prompting one there. I want Star Wars with good protagonists, and then it just does that. That is exactly how prompt engineers work.
Ah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, it's that
It's
easy.
that easy. Oh man. Um. Yeah, AI is a good time for sure. It's oh my god, it'll change everything. I think the more I work with it, it's definitely gonna change a lot of stuff. But again, I think it's exciting. I think it's genuinely exciting. I always think about like a lot of the ways I could use it in the future. I think it'll be a lot easier to learn a language, which I'm looking forward to, because you'll have a text model or a language model that can kind of speak back to you and make sure you're pronouncing things correctly and you're enunciating and your tone is correct, and you'll a big problem is not having someone to practice with, right? A lot of people do the letter writing programs where you can like someone else trying to learn English, you're trying to learn French, you guys meet up through email and you like message back and forth, and that helps. Or maybe you talk. But imagine you have an expert in every language recorded, known to man, right in your room. You can just chat with him wherever you want. Like that's crazy. That's so crazy. But a lot of stuff like that, I think, uh, for the people who thirst for knowledge and gaining skill, I think this will be one of the most insane tools you could have. And so far, accessibility to it has been very open. So hopefully we keep that trend up. Hopefully.
Yeah. All right. I think we've talked the AI point enough. Maybe right now would be a good time to sort of reflect on our progress so far with the podcast. Obviously, we've changed a lot, right? We've changed. Well, we added intros, right? We added
Yes, we added
intros. We've
intros.
both done. You started, then I'm doing it now. We've had so many guests, and now we're in an episode where we don't have any guests, and we're just talking with ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I something for me has been kind of every single episode before I do it, I get nervous every single time. And before it was pretty bad. It's softened over time. Um, so that's been nice. But
I'd be nervous to hang out with me too. I'm kind of a big deal.
yeah, you're really scary, is what it is.
I
Terrifying.
don't know. To look at, maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know.
uh, no, but it's been very good. It's been very nice. I've very much enjoyed talking with, obviously most of these people are just friends of mine that I've known for quite a while. Um, but it's pretty cool. I was very worried that when I invited people on that they were gonna be shy or that they didn't have much to say. But a lot of people who've come on have had like, quite a bit to say and get off their chest, which is great because I wanted it to be a platform where people could speak their mind, and it is serving that purpose, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think. Do you have a favorite? I'll ask you. Do you have a favorite episode that we've done so far?
Um, I want to say, hmm, I kind of want to say there was one where the one you missed actually, where Ian was on.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I was that one I had very low expectations for. It was somewhat thrown together last minute, and the topic I didn't think was going to go for very long. So it was just on a flavor of the month video game. Um,
Yeah.
but it ended
It
up
was
being
Power World, right? Yeah, that was the
yeah
Power World episode.
yeah the
Yeah, yeah.
Power episode. Um, I didn't think it was going to go anywhere, but that conversation ended up being one of the longest that the podcast had, and it was very productive, and I learned a lot from it from involving AI. I know we just went on a pretty long rant about it, but I gained kind of a nice perspective when it came to AI there, and it made me kind of hopeful for video games too, because I've always enjoyed co-op games, and that was kind of something that came up. But that one was a good episode. I might have to scroll through and see them all. But wait, yeah. What about yourself?
Uh, I actually really liked the. I think I liked the panel we did with Avatar:
Yeah,
The Last Airbender.
yeah.
Um, One, having more guests was really fun. Got to hear a lot of different perspectives, and I also enjoyed like dissecting a little bit. Um, you know, a work of art that I've known for a long time, and kind of theorizing. We did like a little bit of dissecting. We did a little bit of theorizing. We talked about what we liked, didn't like. I love talking about like the craft of like making a story. Like just as a novelist, that's like one of my favorite parts of writing is when you get with somebody else who understands and you just like peel the onion back and you look at like the depths and all these things that are like working together that maybe someone who isn't aware of that wouldn't understand.
Hmm.
And that wasn't like the deepest conversation I've ever gotten into, but like that we were able to get that deep with such a big panel was nice.
Yeah, that was definitely one of my favorites too. That was really enjoyable. I was worried that having so many people on, maybe some people are going to be too quiet and others are going to talk too much, and there just wouldn't be much synergy. But it went so well, and I've thought about hosting more like that in the future, um, because it went so well. I have a question: is there any episode where you had learned something? Like kind of, it doesn't have to be introspective, but um, you had just kind of realized something you didn't know, had an epiphany, or you were just like, oh, I didn't think about that, or like there was a point of view that you hadn't seen from.
Sorry, can you repeat that last part?
Is there Was there an episode or a guest that we had on that like kind of surprised you? Maybe with like a point of view that you weren't expecting, or something you just hadn't considered before, or maybe even a piece of information that you're like, whoa, that's kind of nuts.
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
Everyone's been like really, yeah, no. I mean, like I've learned stuff, right? But like there was never like a moment where I was like, holy shit, never thought about it that way. But like I was like, yeah, like I can see that, or oh, I understand that. But I'm kind of hard to surprise in that regard. Like there's very few times where like, and it's always like the most random shit that like really impresses me. I'm like, what the fuck? How'd you know? Like that's such an insignificant piece of knowledge. How the fuck did you know that?
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. What about you?
Um, hmm. That's a good question. Put on me. I don't know. I don't think so. Uh, Maybe Vin when he was on and he was talking about the culture stuff, the East versus West. I found that very informative. I don't know if I was like completely like, whoa, what the hell, but it was pretty cool to have somebody very familiar with the differences and kind of live both of those lives and have like both those perspectives. I thought was really neat. It was nice to uh, have some confirmations for some things that I had thought, which was neat. I found that very helpful. I've been trying to. I want to get more people from outside our country on because you know, uh, like American POV is very different from people outside the U.S. It's so different. Only people realize how different it is. So having,
Oh. Hmm.
yeah, so having people from outside the country on, I think is so great. Especially when you get into like American politics, because everyone keeps an eye on American politics. Everybody does. Everybody wants. Everybody. It's like a world drama show. that
I mean,
everyone.
our fucking media portrays it like a world drama show, so I don't fucking I'm not surprised. Like, God, even though I don't like that, it's true.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'll be kind of interested to see, where we go in the future. Um, we really do kind of cover like a little bit of everything. It feels like,
yeah, yeah.
like
It was the
we.
goal. It was very much the
I
goal.
mean, yeah, true. It's just like, damn, like we do cover a lot. Fuck. I mean, like it's one thing to say that, right? It's one thing to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna cover like everything from pixels to politics, but then it's like, oh well, like we actually do get down some like really weird tangents and have these topics that are like normally outside of my wheelhouse, but you know going into them with guests it helps. So,
Yeah, for sure.
all right, Dougie, do you have anything else you want to say as we kind of look to start wrapping up today?
Just wanted to say thank you for all who've listened. I know there's quite a few of you who listen literally the day after I post. So it's always really cool to see that it's the next day everyone watches. Um, I we didn't touch on the Supreme Court ruling on Trump's ballot elimination. I did want to bring that up, but I
Oh God, we can talk about that next week. Because I mean, we'll also be able to talk about Super Tuesday.
yes, that's true. Super Tuesday. So yes, we'll talk about that next week. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's it.
Well, I want to say, yes, thank you everyone that's been listening, and also those that have provided feedback. I think it's definitely made the show better, both
Mm,
guests and listeners. So thank you all so much, and I look forward to talking more with Dougie and guests in front of all of you in the future.
hell yeah.